Hey, the man.
Ta-da.
Ta-da.
All right.
Kelly.
Kelly, Shaefer.
Shaefer. I've got it correct, though.
It is not correct.
Hold on.
I'll just, what if I called you John instead of Johan?
That's fine. A lot of people do. You said on my advertisement, it's Shaefer.
Yeah, it's just SH.
Ah,
no C in there at all.
Jeez. Yeah. Okay. Got me there. Got me.
Yeah. How are you, my man?
I've been living in Germany for too long. Always an SCH.
Great English.
Yeah, no, that comes from, I'm originally from Namibia, Southern Africa, so.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
How'd you end up in Germany?
Oh, well, my ancestors were German from my mother's side, and I ended up marrying a German girl, and sort of, yeah.
That's just history.
You follow the heart, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for making the time, Kelly. Awesome.
Oh, of course. No problem.
Great stuff. Kelly,
what do you want to talk about?
You guys are on tour and busy?
Well, we just got done with the Focus and Presence tour with Cynic, and that was probably 31 shows in 33 days. So that was a good run, and lots of great crowds, and went all the way up through Canada and all out west. And now I think we're getting ready to do something in Europe, hopefully before the end of the year.
Okay.
And, yeah, just got three new guys in the band, a new drummer, 2 new guitar players from the last tour that we did, and they were just fantastic, and really want to take those guys to Europe because they were just full of energy and playing the shit out of this material, and it's a lot of fun playing in a band with these guys. They're all substantially younger than me, so it's fun to chase them around.
Randy and some of the other guys decided we're done.
Well, Rand hasn't been in the band since 1993.
Oh, okay.
So he's literally been a long time since he's been in the band. So Steve Flynn is
sorry, I meant Steve. Sorry.
Oh, you meant Steve? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Steve, he has he just has a very complicated corporate life, and 4 daughters, and he's just not it's a little harder, guys. Once we get a little older, you really have to make a choice. You really got to want to do this. Otherwise it's it can be difficult. So yeah, we agreed a couple of years ago. I was like, well, this is all I want to do. And with his blessing, they put together a new band, and he's been super supportive, and so it's fun, because he was never able to really tour that much, and that's a big reason why we weren't able to do a whole lot of touring back in the day, and all the periods of time that we came back, and there's always been these gaps in our career. A lot of times, we had opportunities to go and tour, but we weren't able to get it done just because he can never really do more than a week's worth of shows. And
yeah.
So here we are, the 21st century atheist.
Exactly, but it's exactly like you said. There comes a certain time, a threshold in life, where you have to decide. Can you still pull this off, or do you have other responsibilities? And
yeah, I mean, I have children as well. I just have this is all I've ever done. This is and Steve knows this. Also, he has a very very well-paying corporate job, so I've never had that kind of anchor, so to speak, and that kept me from going, well, do I want to be a, creative consultant or a, do I want to work in this industry or that? I've basically just been a jobber,
Yeah,
if,
yeah.
in between touring and playing music.
No, definitely. But I mean, now that you said you just get a few new musicians, are they all based in Florida? Or I mean,
No,
yeah, exactly.
no, I had to search far and wide for these guys. I got the drummer
It's not
Dylan Marks is in San Diego, and guitar player Alex is in Phoenix, and then Yoav, our bass player, and Jerry are both in Boston.
okay.
And so everybody's spread out pretty good. And I'm in
Wow.
Florida, so
I can imagine it
um,
being difficult to find everyone on the same spot as it used to be. And it's not
well,
like,
back in the day, I mean, you could sort of cut corners and try to find somebody in Florida. I just, at the end of the day, I want to find the best people. I don't care where they're at. And I I just I really want this material to be played at its top notch level. And when it is, it's much different than I think a lot of people expect. When they come to see us, I think after listening to those records for however long, those records, were 30 years old. So the production on them is 30 years old. And so while people get used to that, when they come to see us live, I think they're kind of shocked because that material really gets a lot tougher and a lot more angry and has a lot more power than
okay.
people expect because of the, sort of 21st century PA systems and the guitar tones and everything really is just so much clearer and cleaner and heavier that the material comes off differently, and I think that a lot of people are kind of taken back by that, and I love that. I think it's good.
That being said, I don't think you guys ever had a bad sound. And you always had a really punchy, heavy
Thank you.
approach. And I think the first time I heard of Atheist was on the Monsters of Death compilation done by Rock Hard magazine, which had Enthralled in Essence on it. And
Oh,
well, first of all, I must admit I wasn't immediately sort of, it was probably more bands like Morbid Angel and Morgoth, that kind of stuff that caught me first.
right.
But it took a while, and then your music started to unfold. And it was only I was in living Namibia at the moment, so I couldn't just waltz down to the next record store and they had Atheists there.
Right.
They
Yeah.
didn't even have Metallica. It's like kind of when somebody slipped me a tape of your debut, I was wow, amazing, really
Thank you.
stuff.
Yeah,
And
it took a lot of people a little while to kind of be able to absorb I think what we were doing. I think it's just and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that if somebody listens to your record one time and they go, okay, I get it, then I don't know. I think that's kind of a fail in a way.
yeah,
For me anyway, as a musician, I really want to. I want to take somebody on a journey that takes them a little while to understand. I think it's that way with cinema as well. You watch a movie one time and it's a complex movie or complex storyline. Sometimes you have to go back and watch it again to catch the things that you missed. And I think that to this day, I think there's still things that people miss about the music. So I mean, I think that's a good quality to have. It's not great from a marketing standpoint, or it's not great from the sense of sending out. When an atheist record comes out, or when it came out in the past, and people that review the records typically have about 6 to 8 reviews to get done by the end of the week. And so if you were in that position as a writer and you popped in the Atheist one time, you'd be like, I don't know what the fuck that was. So the reviews were always kind of not as great as the legacy ended up being, for the band. I mean, so and it was that way for Led Zeppelin as well. I mean, if you read the old reviews for Led Zeppelin, they're very everybody just kind of wrinkled their nose at what they were doing. And they ended up being Led Zeppelin. So
I mean,
I think
look
it's it.
from an attention span point of view. I mean, I'm in touch with a lot of younger metalheads. It takes them a lot of them look at. I mean, I share stuff with them, even the bands like Watchtower, and they just go, oh, just don't have the time. It doesn't compute, it doesn't. And I just always try and reassure them, listen, it'll unfold. It'll take you on
Yeah,
a journey. It'll.
you got to allow it to. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's like reading IKEA directions.
Yeah,
Do you have IKEA over there? you
yeah,
have to put
sure, of
you have to put
course.
together when you look at the directions, you go, fuck this, I don't want to put this thing together. but when you do, it's very satisfying.
It is. You get that little. So Kelly, I mean, you were part of the big, what they call death metal movement of the Florida region, but what made you guys decide to, or what made you decide to not follow the sort of straightforward, brutal?
Yeah, it was a natural progression. I mean, it was just something that we had very similar taste in music, and they were just kind of diverse in the sense that we really kind of grew up with Rush and Yes and bands like that when we were younger. And I think it has a lot to do just with roots, good bones, good musical foundation to start with, and then also a love of the aggressive nature of sort of thrash and death metal that was emerging. Like, obviously, keep in mind at the time there was no death metal or any of that. There were no titles. People had a very hard time even kind of describing the music, and then when it came to us, it was even more difficult. So I just think it wasn't definitely a conscious effort. It was just something that we enjoyed playing difficult, complex arrangements and stuff because that's what our heroes did. And but we also loved fucking heavy, brutal music as well, and fast. Speed was a big deal.
Yeah.
In the early days of all this, and but when it came to the sort of lyrically, I didn't, in a piece of time. I mean, there's some very immature lyrics compared to where I ended up lyrically, but I was 16 years old, 16, 17, 18 years old. So I was just, trying to find my way, and so by the time we got to Piece of Time and I Deny, I was starting to kind of find my way into Neil Peart land. Like, he was always such a brilliant lyricist, and again, there's very few degrees of separation between us and that kind of music, and the fact that we ended up even falling into the death metal category, I think it was just by default from where we lived, because of the movement that was happening in Florida.
Yeah.
But we were outsiders in an outsider's world, so to speak, and that was a tough place to be in the beginning. I mean, it wasn't no one for us to tour with, no one to have a kinship with until Cynic came along.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Yeah, because the media just lumped you in with that lot. That's
they still kind of do.
And
it's okay. I mean, we're all buds. I mean, we all, back in the early days, Nasty Savage was the main band that sort of showed us all, how to write original music and make a record and go on tour, and we kind of everybody looked up to them. When we went to a Nasty Savage show, you would see all the guys in Morbid Angel, all the guys in Obituary, all the Massacre. Everybody was there at the Nasty Savage show, and we learned from them, and they never get a lot of credit for
they don't
for their place in history. They really were so responsible for being mentors for us, and so I'm still friends with David Austin and Ron Gladdy still to this day. So
amazing.
I love those guys, and Ben Meyer. And I know that Roger. Nasty Savage had a bass player called Dezo Bartha, and he was an incredible young player, and he was from Greece, and Roger just loved him, and he felt a kinship with his style, and which is all bass was a big deal, obviously because of Rush as well.
Getty,
it was such a focus of it was the first. We always felt like it was as important as any other instrument, and a lot of times in metal it wasn't that way. It wasn't seen that way. So that was one of the first separations of us away from the normal crowd or the normal, sort of our surroundings in Florida. Allowing orchestration around bass lines, was something I don't think that anybody was really thinking about. It was all just about being as gory as you could be and being as fast as you could be and as brutal. Everything was brutal, and we were like, yeah, that's cool. We like brutal too, but brutal seems more brutal when in contrast to beauty or elegance or class, and I think that it really shines a light on brutality more if you go from something brutal to something complex and then back to brutal, and you mix that together, and it's just like it's like being in a hot shower. If you turn it to really cold water and then you turn it to hot water, you're like, whoa, that water feels hotter than ever, and So I think a lot of that kind of played a role in how we ended up, And then once we got going, once we got to those last couple of songs that we wrote on Piece of Time, we immediately left the studio, went right in, started writing. And I think the first song we wrote for Unquestionable Presence was for the formative years, and from there we just literally would try to top the last song that we wrote, and we had a couple of ears, Ori Voikrin, Monty Connor. Those were two guys that were really important ears for us. They were kind of early believers in what we were doing, and so there weren't a lot of believers in what we were doing. So we really tried to impress those guys, and I tell them that to this day, like, you don't know how important you were to the landscape of Atheist and how we ended up and why we ended up the way we ended up. And, so it's kind of like if you're a comedian and you tell jokes and you tell jokes around your family and they don't laugh, and you tell jokes around your friends and they all laugh, and you tend to want to tell good jokes around your friends. You know what I mean? And so we really wanted to write things that would blow them away, and that was the goal. Like, sort of practicing 5 to 6 days a week, and we would send these box recordings, on a cassette, and say, "What do you think of this?" And so it was fun. It was that process, I think, has always been my goals, because I even did it with the Till the Dirt record. When I was writing all this stuff, I had like 2 or 3 years that were important to me, to tell me the truth, because that's inevitably what you're looking for. You're not looking for lip service or whatever. You want somebody to really tell you, honesty. And I can't tell you how many times, back in the day, you come off stage, you go, "What do you go up to a friend, hey, how'd it sound? Sounded good." I don't want to fucking hear that. Tell me what really, how it really was. Okay, all right, the vocals were a little low and the drums were kind of sloppy. All right, thank you. That's what I want to hear, and that's what I need. And a lot of times people surround themselves with people that never tell them that, and then they never progress.
It's all just praise,
mm-hmm.
and you don't really grow.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
Don't.
No, that's like a good friend will also tell you the down points.
Mm. It's important, and that's what those guys kind of did for us, and they were very honest with us, and we were so different that I don't think they knew whether anybody else was ever going to care about this music, because there really was no one else to compare it to. So label wise, it was pretty hard to find somebody to write a check for something that's a risk like that, and away, and here we are 30 years later.
That's amazing. But you must be proud also. I think you guys must have played a huge role in the sort of creation of bands like that are now sort of on vogue and new or semi-new, like Obscura, really technical bands out there. Bands like Watchtower and stuff was more sort of parallel to you guys as well. But now,
I just did a podcast with Jason and from Watchtower, and we had a great 2-hour conversation. Awesome. I don't know if you caught it or not, but it was really cool, because it was full circle. Like, we were, Watchtower was so crazy. Like, we really loved, their daring nature, their ability to kind of take Rush to like, they sounded like Rush on cocaine, and we were like, holy shit, and so that also played a role in the early Atheist, the I don't know, kind of, it was like a free pass to be crazy and to have no rules musically, and so those were our examples, and so when I told Jason that, and what's funny is he ended up playing. After Atheist broke up in '93, I put a band together called Neurotica, and that band had a pretty good run until 2002, and the drummer that I had in the end that was out on Ozfest with me ended up being Jason's drummer. So it's a really small world of musicians in full circle. And so he was kind of shocked to hear some of my stories about how important they were to us. Roger was buried with a picture of Doug Kaiser from Watchtower.
Wow.
That he had just had taken just days prior in Texas before he died. Yeah. And it was like a Polaroid. Nonetheless, how old school is that? Is it Polaroid? Most kids today are like, "What the fuck is that?"
What is that? Yeah.
Yeah, it really meant a lot to him. Doug Kaiser was an amazing bass player that Roger looked up to a lot.
Yeah, and
And
then obviously Ron Jarzenbeck. I mean, come on, whoa, that's
yeah, those guys are incredible. And
phenomenal.
I'm so excited they're coming back. I can't wait to see.
Yes, exactly.
Can't wait to see those performances. And listen, Jason is still in top notch shape, man. As a vocalist, he's still got it. I mean, he's a bad man.
Jason has become rent a vocalist, eh?
Mm-hmm.
He's been doing
Armored Saint. Yeah. Yeah, he's got a lot of pipes, man, and he was teasing me about it because I was like, he's a disciplined vocalist. I'm not, I'm a cigarette smoking, Jaeger drinking, and so he was kind of busting my balls about it. And I was like, hey, we're different men, we all do things differently, but much respect to Jason, and he was a really great guy too. We had a really great talk about a lot of things, And
did you hook up on? Sorry to interrupt. Did you hook up on Talk Louder?
It was no, it wasn't on his podcast. It was on another podcast of a mutual friend of ours. It's called the coffee stain. Oh God, he's gonna be so mad at me that I'm forgetting what his name is. Rock and roll, the coffee radio shit, something like that. But Joe Sibilia is the guy, and he knew that he knew us both, and he knew that how much I loved Watchtower, and so he kind of put us together on his podcast. And I'll find it and send you the link. Check it out.
Awesome! I need to see that. That is killer. Yeah. Not great. So okay, you are first and foremostly you're also a guitar player.
Yes.
Okay, but you decided I'm going to focus on vocals. Let the other guys play, or what was the reasoning?
Well, initially it happened. I had an issue with my thumb. I have it's kind of carpal tunnel, but it's in a way that makes my hand go to sleep if I'm standing up playing. So I can sit down and play for hours, but standing for some reason just sends this nerve in. And I've over the years, I've thought about the operation, and I've talked to a couple of people that have had the operation, and they still had issues, and then they had new issues. So I was like, fuck it, I don't need to play guitar for my ego. You know what I mean? I know I play guitar. I know I write, a lot of music, and so I'm content with just being the vocalist. And so, but initially I was a guitar player before I ever got on the mic. So it was something that I don't know, it felt like a natural. That was in '93 when that happened, and when I first started just singing, and now these days I have even more selfish reasons for why I don't want to play guitar on stage. It's a pain in the ass. It's strings and tuning and amps and bucket. I'll just show up to the mic stand and
you can just
walk blow it out. Yeah, I just walk out and have fun. It's a lot easier. And honestly, the kids that are playing with me now are so damn good that they're picking, and everything is just so tight, and so it's for the benefit of the because sometimes people can't let go of their play. I have to be the guitar player. Like it's all about what's better for the song, better for the band, for the music. And that's the way it should be. And when egos get in the way, you find complacency, and people kind of sweep details under the rug. And I don't ever want to be that guy. Especially with this kind of music, it needs to be played at a top-notch level. And I kind of felt like ever since we came back in 2006. We had lineups. We had, a lot of good musicians, but they weren't playing on the level that the guys that I have now are playing. There wasn't a lot of attention to exact playing the solos exact. It was so. What I wanted to do when I told Steve, I was like, I want to put this new band together, and I want them to play exactly how it was recorded. And if they do. I feel like it'll be very powerful live, and I feel like I was right. When I stand on stage with the new guys and I hear them playing, songs from Elements, that's another thing that's really exciting for me. Is Elements is an album that was the first digital record that we ever did, and it was the production on it was less than stellar because people didn't really know how to capture in '93 capture heavy guitars on a digital level in the way that they do now. And so those songs, while they still, I still love the record, they don't sound as good as they do live. So when we played on this last tour, we played 4 songs from that album, and my God, I was just, it's like a rebirth of those songs. They just really translate amazingly live with, with high quality sound in a way that I didn't anticipate, and so that's an exciting kind of new limb on the tree.
Just breathe new life into the songs, huh?
Yeah, it really did. I mean, and so I'm excited to maybe explore some of the other songs on there as well.
That's amazing. It's a great record. But I need to get back to your playing. I mean, are you self-taught? Because I mean,
Yeah.
I hear flamenco in there. I hear Latin, everything. It's
Yeah, well, I think stylistically, I surrounded myself with a lot of good players. So, when it came to writing, the flamenco stuff, like in my mind, I can think of things. Maybe I can't play them, but if I find the guys that can. So Frank Emmy was a guy that played on the Elements record, and I knew he was I use almost like a painter uses paintbrushes and colors and I can mouth things out to people, and if they're capable of playing on a top level, then they should be able to articulate whatever I'm mouthing out. So I did that with drums and a lot of things over the years, and was able to find guys that were able to play exactly what I was mouthing out. And I can't tell you how many riffs were. Like that kind of, and then the guy would be like, yes, okay, and so the flamenco part came as a result of that, and but for me personally, I've always said, and I say this all the time, that I'm always the least talented musician in any band that I'm in terms of I always want to surround myself with people that are way better than me, and I feel like if I do, then it's going to make me better, and then and again, it's you have to be willing to put your ego aside if you have one, and
you very much in musical form what I am in work form. I'm a creative director, so I need to say goodbye. Number one, I'm not going to design myself anymore. Number two, I'll surround myself with good designers.
yeah.
And I have a vision, and I'll tell them, listen, bring it to that level, or I need an illustrator. So you just basically facilitate.
Yeah, I think that's how you make the best art. I mean, be it music, cinema, anything. You surround yourself with talented people, and somebody has to direct it, though. You know what I mean? It's like an orchestra. There's a conductor. And the conductor seems very, not unimportant, but to the average layman person, they're looking at this like, why is this guy doing that? All these amazing musicians are playing. What is that person doing? That person is very important, really. I mean, they're guiding that musical structure along, and I think that I liken myself to that kind of musician. And but yeah, I am self-taught. I never took any lessons or anything like that. I sat in the early days to learn guitar, and just sat in my room and tripped on acid and smoked a lot of pot, and so that I would have the patience to sit for hours and hours and hours playing. And so and people that don't sort of experiment with any sort of outside influence probably hear that as a shallow statement. But all the greatest art in the world is made, typically most of it is made from an altered state. I think that that Zeppelin, Aerosmith, the list goes on of people that used alternate methods of opening doors in your brain to find weird things, and I think people that don't do those things, I think, listen and sort of live vicariously through the musician. So Pink Floyd, for instance, the most square-toed, boring people in the world that have never had a drink in their life or a smoke or nothing, love Pink Floyd. And I think somehow that it while you're listening to Pink Floyd, that person can kind of feel almost what it's like to explore the realms of your mind, and so I've always come with that philosophy of writing. There's always an altered state in every piece of music that I've ever written. So, and I like that process, because there are things that, if you go out and you have a couple drinks, I don't know if you drink at all, but you feel differently, um,
Yeah.
and you say things differently. You're more open. You're more likely to have a conversation that you wouldn't have if you weren't having a couple drinks or a smoke, or you know what I mean. So those opening those doors in your brain, I think, are a good thing, especially if you can apply it to something like music or cinema or even painting.
Yeah, for sure. No, definitely. I mean, I've had those kind of moments in the graphic design side of things as well. Um, Very often, the next morning, the idea didn't look as good as it did the night before, but they were the odd ideas that made it. So yeah,
Yeah, I have a new band called Till the Dirt, and I wrote. That was the first time that I ever wrote music while drinking. So drinking, typically all the atheist music was always written while smoking pot. We would get high and play, and that was kind of our formula. And so when COVID happened, I found myself stuck at home. I wasn't able to go out, and I had you know just an isolation that was kind of unprecedented. And so I felt like, well, I'm not going to be driving. I'm not going to be going anywhere. So let me have a couple drinks at home. And I just set up a brand new little studio in my house, and real small, and was able to record something I didn't never. I'm not like a tech head at all. I'm not a complex recording guy or anything like that. So I had to figure it out little by little. And as I was figuring it out, I was writing. And what was really great about it is I never had the opportunity to record things as I sat down and played. So I would have to write something that really, really stuck out above the pack to be able to remember it the next day. So a lot of times I was writing, I was just writing riffs for Atheist for the future, and I was just excited about being able to record all two or more guitars myself. So instead of having to get somebody to play, instead of trying to get the idea across to other musicians, and obviously there weren't any around, I was by myself.
yeah,
It was kind of liberating to not have to ask anybody's opinion,
yeah,
to not concede in any way the idea, the idea that I'm doing. Because sometimes, you get four or five people in a room and you're writing, and you have to concede a little bit because everybody wants to have a riff in the song, and everybody has an opinion, and it's really hard to get five people on the same page for
yes,
everything all the
absolutely,
time. And so a lot
absolutely.
of times, you may end up letting a riff go away because the other person wants to have their riff there, and maybe they
Yeah,
and rather than go and get into an argument, you just kind of concede and allow it to happen. So with
plus,
till
plus
the
when
dirt,
plus
what's that?
if you can present it in a more recorded, refined version, I think it often sells it better. Eh?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, because if you're telling somebody something
They
about it, they
have
go,
to,
well, yeah, they got to try to figure it out, and maybe they're not on the same plane as you, or they're not in the same headspace as you, so they can't quite understand what it is you're saying. And so, yeah,
yeah,
when you record it and say, look, it's this, and they go, oh shit, all right, I hear that, I
I
feel
hear it.
that,
Yeah, yeah,
and so that was my process for Till the Dirt, and I wrote like 25 songs in a 6 week period, and just got really prolific and excited, and but again, going back to having a couple of drinks, it made me more bold and more daring, and made me sing differently. It made me use different kinds of drums because I wrote all the drums as well, and that's something I've always tried to mouth out drums to Steve Flynn and to other drummers that I played with, and so this was an opportunity for me to not have to try to explain myself to a drummer. I could just write the drums myself, and so I just love the whole process of that, and obviously the recording abilities today. I mean, you can record a demo at home that sounds better than any of the albums back in the '90s, and
yeah,
so that
yeah.
was one of the things. Whenever I got some songs written, and I got back in touch with Scott Burns. Um, in, for those not familiar with Scott Burns, he's just a legendary
Producer
producer,
from Florida. Yeah,
and a very harsh critic, in terms of what's good and what's not, and what he wants to work with and what he doesn't. And so I was really excited about this material. And when he got excited about it, then I really got excited about it.
yeah.
And so then that process just continued to blossom. And yeah, and the record's coming out August.
Awesome, great stuff.
Yeah. Have you heard it yet?
No, nothing,
No.
nothing. No.
Oh, it's out. It's out. The single came out 2 weeks ago on Nuclear Blast,
Okay, I need to check it
called
out.
"Outside the Spiral." It's been all over the internet. It's been really well received so far. It's a Jeff Loomis plays on it with me. Steve DiGiorgio,
Wow.
John Longstreth, and some of the guys in Atheist in my new lineup. Yeah, I got a lot of guests, and it's I wrote everything. I played guitar on the album for the first time since '93, because that's the last time I played on a record was Elements. So yeah, I'm so proud of it. It's really different. It's as different as Atheist was to the late '80s. I think that it's a
Oh,
it's a combination
I must definitely.
combination of these styles of. So I'm a huge fan of the good part of Seattle. The old Soundgarden, the old Alice in Chains,
Alice
stuff
in
like that.
Chains.
And so this you'll hear a lot of that and stoner rock. I love that '70s vibe. So this record is that with blast beats and black metal tones, and like I don't listen to black metal, but I think one of the reasons why people sort of compare it to black metal is because there's a lot of trilly kind of riffs. But I mean, we were always doing that with Atheist anyway. I was always writing those kinds of riffs.
I was thinking the exact same thing today. I was listening through a couple of your albums. I said, "There's those chords. There you go."
Yeah, I mean, that's what is now referred to as black metal kind of style, style wise. So when I put this record together, I combined all of my styles, and vocally, I was able to also use a different part of my voice that I used in Neurotica, and I've always been able to sing, but I never would do that in the context of Atheist. I don't think
Yeah,
that would be
yeah.
fair to the band. So this allows me to do all that, but I don't just sing it's not just like a typical clean chorus formula. You know what I mean? It's pretty, it's still nasty, and it's, been smoking 35 years. So my clean is not clean, and I love it, man. I'm so proud of it. And yeah, Monty Connor and Scott Burns produced it for the first record he's done in over 25 years.
Wow.
And
Okay.
yeah, I just got a lot. There's a lot of stuff. We're back.
No, amazing news. Scott Burns comes out of the.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's an incredible thing. I never in a million years. We had just reconnected as friends when I was, in the early stages of COVID. I was talking with a mutual friend named Tim Hubbard, who is a photographer from back in the day, took all the early deicide and obituary photos and all that. And he was still friends with Scott. And I was like, man, I'd love to talk to him. I haven't talked to him in decades. And he was like, yeah. So he connected us, and we had a really great conversation just about life and what we've been doing for the last 20 years. And so I was like, yeah, I have some new music. And he was kind of reluctant at first because he's been hit up over the years by a lot of different bands to come out and produce, and he's just like, I really don't want to do anything unless it's unless it's really different, and I want to go out. He wanted to kind of go out on his on his own terms, and he never really got to do that. So anyway, long story short, I sent him some demos, and the first one I sent was the title track, House the Spiral, and he was just like, wow, this is this is really different and it's good. So he ended up working with me on it. Now he really wore the producer hat in this in a different way than he did. Like, he gets credit for producing all those old albums, but a lot of times he was producing, but not in the truest sense of producing. Producing is typically not where you're on the board. It's a lot like what Rick Rubin does. Rick Rubin listens and has ideas and can guide you through better arrangements, and that's what Scott did for me on this record. And I would write things and send them to him that night, and then wake up the next day, and he would listen, and we would discuss it, and it was just so exciting. But yeah, what an incrediable turn of events for me. I mean, I was so excited about it. And then Monty Connor became involved as well. So he ended up signing us to Nuclear Blast, and here we are. And like I said, the first single, Outside the Spiral, came out 2 weeks ago, and everybody seems to be really enjoying it. And so the new single's coming up soon, and then the record will be out on August 25th.
Oh, amazing! I need to check it out. Definitely.
Yeah,
I'm amazed it slipped me. I did not check, and I'm actually quite familiar with the Nuclear Blast roster, but I need to check definitely.
Yeah, Till the Dirt, man. Yeah, so everybody check it out. And And so that term comes from something I've said for a long time. Till I die, till it's over, till the end. A lot of people are confused by like they kind of take it as the farmer version of it, like tilling the dirt. Like no, I'm not tilling the dirt.
No, to dust you shall decay.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So that's this new thing that I'm just over the moon about because it's so fresh and modern, and it's there's incredible harmony vocals over blast beats and just things that I broke all kinds of rules on this album that you're not things you're not supposed to do. And it's very raw, and I tracked most of it myself, and it was mixed out in Missouri at Apollo Audio Alt by Ryan Vincent, and so yeah, I can't say enough about it. I hope that everybody will check it out. And like I said, the first single is out there now, and there's a lyric video for it, and it's going to take just like we were talking about earlier about you're not going to get it on the first listen. I mean, it's going to be a little bit like, whoa, what the fuck is that? Because there's a lot of things happening that aren't supposed to happen.
I am so looking forward to it. I'll check it out most definitely.
Cool, awesome. Yeah,
but that being said, Jupiter, we're writing now. What is it? 13 years ago.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Do you guys have something down the pipeline?
Yeah, so we've had a contractual issue with it's hard for me to talk about it legally, but we've been caught in a bind for 4 years with a label that essentially breached contract, and that's what's held us up from being able to make a new record. And we're working real hard to get that squashed before the end of the year. And but in the meantime, we're writing together and working on new material. So there's a ton of new material sitting there in the wings waiting. We've just got to get past the legality of being able to move forward. So it's frustrating because people are they see the reissues. The albums we signed a deal with Nuclear Blast for our whole catalog to be reissued, and they did a phenomenal job. And Splatter Vinyl's out; it's beautiful. And so what's that?
They see you live.
I'm sorry, what?
And then they see you live now, and they.
Oh yeah, right. So there's this resurgence of occupation of atheist sort of in the eyes of what's going on right now. But a lot of people are like, well, we don't want cool, the reissues are coming out, but what about new music? And it's frustrating to not be able to talk about it. But but that's if people can just be patient. And I mean, we've always been that kind of band. We're kind of we operate on Tool time. I think Tool does a record like every 10 years.
But right, as long the material has always stood up, and that's great.
As long as that material can last, through the changes and the transcending of different movements within the music business, then I think that then it works, and that's not always the case with every band. But for us, for Atheists, we've been lucky to have that be the case. And yeah, Jupiter, just I can't believe it was 13 years ago.
It's amazing. It's crazy. I mean. Like you said, you don't bring out an album every year or every 2 years, but in exchange for that, you get quality. And I often wish some groups would do less and rather bring out something that's like, spot on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jupiter, I must say, blew me away from the get.
Thank you.
It just hammered me. It was like totally. I want to get into Jupiter a little bit. Because I have my assumptions when I listen to there's 2 songs when I listen to them. Fraudulent Cloth. My immediate thought was when I first heard it, I had a glance at the lyrics again today. I'm probably wrong, but was that about my first knee-jerk reaction was like, is this about the Shroud of Turin?
No, it's about the Catholic Church, really.
Okay. Now, but I thought it was a reference to the Shroud of Turin. And
no, I'm not that smart. I'm not that well read.
Okay.
What is that you're talking about?
It's that weird that it's in a museum in Turin in Italy, I think, and it supposedly has the facial print of Jesus's corpse, his face, and because when he was dead, he was wrapped in it, and a lot of people say that it's a hoax. And obviously it looks totally like we know Jesus from all the depictions, and it has this the sort of, yeah, the
That's
sort of
interesting. Yeah, well, I'm sorry
check
to
it out
disappoint.
sometime. But it's kind of cool because I think you sort of hit something there, albeit involuntary, but.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to not be able to confirm the story to make myself look a little cooler.
No,
But
that aside,
no,
I
it's
mean,
just
I still think the song addresses a few issues that really, when I first heard that, and that's another thing that I liked is I could actually make out the lyrics, and it's like, why this man is walking free, it's like kind of,
yeah.
they were molested.
It still really makes me angry. I mean, because it's still
Totally.
happening. It's still happening today, and
It's more topical than back
yeah,
then.
than ever. I mean, I think that that when will it end? When will they be held accountable? And it's just, as a guy that's never been, involved in the church ever in my life, and I've written songs about, unholy war and so. I mean, I've been bitching about this for 30 years, and I just can't believe that I still got to bitch about it. I mean, the Jim Bakkers of the old are now reincarnated into the Joel Osteens of, and it's not just the Catholic Church, but the Christian Church is actually emerging as a larger villain. In Florida where I live, I mean, they're literally they're just blurring the lines of church and state. And our forefathers put that in place, freedom of religion and the ability to not indoctrinate people in school. You're not supposed to do that in school. That's a learning institution, but not. It's about learning facts, and there's nothing factual about religion. There's a lot of stories and a lot of things. So, but they're literally they're blurring all that now and trying to hang the 10 Commandments. And I have a 6-year-old son who's getting ready to go into first grade. It fucking infuriates me that they're indoctrinating him. They talk about worried about the trans world and the LGBTQ and kids being indoctrinated by drag queens reading reading to them. Fucking nonsense compared to the indoctrination of trying to infiltrate in God we trust and all these different things. And it's only geared around Christianity and Catholicism and mostly Christianity, where they just feel the need that everybody needs to follow their denomination. And there's, I don't know, 495 different denominations. I mean, if you're going to do that, then you have to hang the Quran. You got to have all those books in there. And of course, they're not willing to do that. So, but the fraudulent cloth was about the scandal, the sex scandal in the church that just got swept under the rug. And so that was what it was about.
If you're a big corporation, you need customers.
Yeah. Speaking of a corporation, I always say that if I don't know, IKEA. That's what we were talking about, IKEA or Walmart or something like that. If there was a stream of child sex cases that came directly from Walmart of the world, people would stop fucking shopping at Walmart, wouldn't they? You know what I mean? They would immediately go, oh, we ban that. We're no longer, we're boycotting that store or any business that participated in sexualizing, and having sex with little kids. Nobody would ever tolerate that, but because it's God and everybody's so scared of what's going to happen when they die. And it's such bullshit, isn't it? I mean, like, we're in the 21st century. We're headed towards the AI age, technology, and we're still buying into this bullshit it's just shocking to me. And so it just fills my bucket of things to write about. But I try not to always, lean in that direction. But it's with Atheist, I'm able to, because people kind of expect that.
But they're losing followership, man. I mean, you hear
Are
that.
they?
You hear that every now and then. That people.
Man, I don't know. They are though. It seems larger than ever.
I don't know many church-going people in my circles.
No,
I don't.
Well, you're not in America, where it's United States. We're full of knuckleheads here, man.
I've never been to the States, but it reminds me from what I see in documentaries or what I hear a lot of South Africa, and that's Namibia. South Africa is where I grew up, and they're very Calvinistic. Very. I went through the whole schooling of it literally got forced down your throat.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know exactly what it must be like. I know,
and it's taught as fact, and it's not. It's a belief, and it's fine if you want to believe that. But the idea that you're telling a woman because of your belief that 6 weeks pregnant, you're not allowed to have a medical procedure, even if that child is dead inside of a woman. The reason why the abortion rule was overturned in America is purely religious. It's purely
Yes.
geared around their belief. And how dare you tell a woman what to do with her body, and do it in the name, especially in the name of religion, which is just littered with bullshit. And I just feel horrible for women to be put in that position. A lot of women don't even know they're pregnant at 6 weeks. Sometimes you don't find out until 8 weeks, but you're not allowed to have a procedure to make that decision for yourself. Some man is going to make that decision for a woman, and then he's going to do it while hanging his hat on the hat stand of God. It's fucking ludicrous.
And then not being around to support.
Oh yeah. Well, what's funny is they care so much about an unborn fetus, but as soon as that baby's born,
then they don't care.
Yeah, they don't give a shit. So you better figure out how to feed that baby, because we're not helping you. No handouts, no socialism. We're just ignorant, man. We're just this country. The people running this country are just fucking ignorant, and
that's crazy.
And now they've created this division where literally right down the middle, 50% of people in America, we're all arguing with each other while they're stuffing their pockets. It's a parody of itself. Really, it's something that when I was younger, I never thought would ever come to fruition. I would thought, oh, we're way smarter than that. We're way more developed and evolved than that. We're not. Like the level of ignorance on the side of modern day Republicans is fucking stunning to me. I mean, you hear these people that think that Joe Biden is not the president and Donald Trump is still the president, and it's like, what are you talking about? Like, what world are you living in? And and these are people that are running corporations and running businesses, and this isn't just coming from the trailer parks of America.
Exactly. These are supposedly educated people.
Yeah. And where are the smart people in America, in the United States? I don't know what happened to them. I don't know. And there's also a level of and I hate to get into politics too much, but it's become such a thing in America that it's shocking that the other side, people more liberal, haven't stepped up and been a little more aggressive about preventing the overtaking of basic fundamental constitutional rights, and they're just letting them have their way. I mean, we just had an insurrection, for fuck's sake. They stormed our Capitol and called themselves patriots. And a guy like John Shaefer from Iced Earth, fuck that guy.
I saw that.
Fuck that guy. And that guy's that's not an American to me. And if he sees it, he can he can write. You're welcome to write me, buddy. But I'll never. I think that it's disgusting. And he's just an example of a guy in music. The only reason I bring him up is because he was arrested and was a part of that. He was on the front lines of that, and so it's relative to our musical world. But it's shocking to be in the United States of America right now, and
that was
and it's embarrassing.
We watched that, and that was really scary. I mean, but for me, when I was still young, I was going to a school that was under the apartheid regime. And I remember distinctly our headmaster calling us all up in the courtyard one day and announcing, we're now going to have a shared school. That was obviously when independence came. Nelson Mandela was freed, and and it was a big issue. In other words, like sort of treat them with respect, blah blah blah. And a few weeks and months passed, and I remember going to my parents and them asking me, so how is it with your fellow new black students? And I said, like, well, quite frankly, I don't get what it was all about. I don't understand what the big fucking problem was. And but Kelly, I remember watching news with my parents, and there were South African politicians, white politicians, that cited from the Bible, saying things, misquoting the Bible and saying like, and he will be the water bearer, and then sort of stating, okay, the black man must be the water bearer for the white man. And this was a guy that was sitting in, imagine a talk show like Wolf Blitzer or whatever, and there's a politician, straight-faced, holding a Bible in his hand and going, oh, well, it's all in the prophecy. You
know what? I don't even have to anymore. I don't have to imagine it. It's happening here. They're literally on shows and sitting in Congress, in the Senate, um, reciting, things from the Bible, and that's one of the top things that really makes me upset. That that fundamental separation of church and state, and not allowing religion to dictate law is just so important. And it's something that I always felt like was a great protector of human rights, and that's just gone out the window in the United States in the last 10 years. It's just these people have a lot of power now, and so it's getting harder and harder to overcome that, and now it's starting to infiltrate into schools, and so having a young son that's getting ready to go through the school system,
Yeah, you obviously.
it's terrifying. Yeah, I mean, I don't I want to be able to present him with thing. Now, if he ends up wanting to be a Christian or a Catholic, then that's fine with me. But the idea in America is like you're born into religion, and so you're taught that from the time you're a baby. So when somebody like me comes along and says, "Ah, this it's all bullshit," and they think, "What are you talking about?" I mean, it's I've also often likened it to the ABCs. If you tell somebody that A B C D E F G is not real. That's not the way it is. It's actually Z Q P T S U V. They'd be like, "You're a fucking idiot." That's not how the ABCs go. So when that kind of indoctrination happens at such a young age, it's impossible to change people's minds. They are just brainwashed with it, and they don't know any other way. And so an outsider like me saying that I don't believe in it, they just think, "What do you mean you don't believe?" What part of that don't you understand? I mean, the living literally from the Bible is just, when
Yeah,
you
but
when you read it and you apply and you say it to them, it's at the end of the day, it really just comes down to people being afraid of what happens when they die. They want an answer, and the church somehow gives them that answer. Oh, don't worry, you're going to be fine if you do this, this, and that, and you'll be welcomed at the pearly gates. And it's just nonsense.
yeah, it's no, and often to me, I have nothing against any religion on this planet, but I think they all get abused for
Yeah,
personal aims and goals. And but I often the people I know that are not religious, they're atheists, whatever, agnostics, but some of them are probably more abiding to the basic rules, call it the Ten
absolutely.
Commandments, whatever, than some people that I know that are church going.
Sure. I mean,
And that's the irony of it,
it's about being a good person, I mean, being a good human being, and these days they're even denying science. I mean, you know, it's just, I mean, I'm without words. So when you start denying science, I mean,
then
where are we going? I mean, what are we talking about here? I mean, you're gonna go over, you know, belief in something. Well, it doesn't matter what you believe. Science is science. That's how we got here. That's how we are, and it's how the world works. And
I would
ignoring climate change and things like that
exactly.
are really going to be dangerous. And I mean, when it all comes down, it's going to the root of the problem is going to come from religion. And it's the root of all the wars. I mean, almost all wars are started based on religious belief, and it's been happening in the Middle East for decades since I was a kid, and now it's only getting worse. Now it's happening in America, and I used to tell my mother, she when I was younger, she didn't quite understand why I didn't believe in God. She was just like, well, she came from Kentucky. She grew up in a family that they were just taught that Jesus and God and all this is this is just fact. And so now I speak with her on the phone several times a week about things, and she understands now at 78 years old what I was so mad about and why I wrote music about it. And now it's when you look at the extreme Muslim movement, most Muslim people are great people. It's not all Muslims
Of course.
that but the extremists. And so I would say the same thing about Christians and Catholics. There's a lot of great Christian and Catholic people that just that really treat people well, and they are charitable and kind and understanding of the differences in everybody. But then there's that group, and that's getting larger and larger, that have those extreme nationalist views. Christian nationalist is a
Totally.
lot like what's happening in the Middle East. It's only going to get worse, and pretty soon it's going to start a war in this country. Between people who believe and don't believe. And I don't want to be around for it, man. I'm sad that my children have to be around for it. So
Yeah, I'll tell you what, we're also sitting on hot coals over here because every time with Putin now restricting exports of grain, it's just adding more fuel to the fire. And yeah,
it's a mess.
we're a little
So
bit
there's
worried.
a lot of reasons to write angry music. Something I always wondered. I wonder why the punk movement isn't larger now. Because if you think about the late '70s and the early '80s, I
Exactly.
mean, how is it that musicians, artists in general, used to always lash back at things like this? And the punk movement should be huge now. There's
Exactly.
so much to talk about.
And so much punk, obviously British punk, was focused around Maggie Thatcher, and and I just go, well, there's so much more to write about these days. Why isn't
Yeah,
there a
absolutely.
big resurgency? But yeah, I guess a lot of thrash metal bands are picking it up. You guys are doing it, and yeah, no, really a chaotic world.
Certainly, I look forward to doing a new Atheist record because it's not just religion, but just politics in general, and it's just forcing your beliefs and your opinions on people, and that's just not it's not conducive for evolving. We got to evolve as people, and part of the evolution of people is to understand the differences. And I think it's interesting also to look at how AI is coming out now, and people are sort of, you know, the toothpaste is out of the tube, so to speak. You can't get it back in now. There's no way to turn back, and a lot of people are very scared about it, and they're like, and it was the same way with the internet. I think, people were very cautious. Oh, what is this internet? The World Wide Web. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. I think that AI is going to be incredible. It's going to be difficult for musicians, because, for instance, music and television and film is going to be now created by, computers. They're not going to need musicians. So a lot of people are going to lose jobs. You're just going to have to reinvent yourself, and that happened with computers. I mean, with the World Wide Web, and everybody's adjusted, and a lot of great things have come out of that technology. So I think a lot of great things will come out of AI as well. But some people are going to lose their livelihoods, but they're going to have to evolve,
But I mean,
and find new ways of doing it.
exactly. I mean, it started with the Industrial Revolution, and
Yeah.
it was that. Then the steam trains. Now we've got Industry 4.0. Everything's computerized. Machines are starting to think, but I think we've always found a way. Obviously, there were losses, and but we've always had to, I guess, find ways to circumnavigate that and find new
Yeah, and I
avenues.
think that once people do that, and then they look back on the way things were done before, they kind of realize the evolution, and they go, okay, that was an important step
Yeah.
in the evolution of human beings, and the way we operate, and the way we live our lives. And there's been a lot of benefit to those things. And but with every advance in technology becomes, the new crimes, new ways of deceiving, things. So you just have to you got to roll with it. You can't just stop progress,
I guess,
just out of fear.
I guess the only thing that bothers me sometimes is when I see all these new frontiers getting reached, is there is so very little where I can sort of see, okay, here is now a new way we can be more soothing on the planet. It's like this whole AI thing. I don't see that being a benefactor, really.
What do you mean?
I don't know. To sort of, there's very few inventions where I go, or new barriers being broken, and where you can say, oh wow, this is going to help us being more environmentally friendly. There's a new propellant that is entirely CO2 free, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of, we're inventing a lot of things, and we're creating a lot of things, and we're breaking new ground, but it's very seldom in a direction where we say, wow, this is going to revolutionize how we treat the earth, how we work with this planet, how we deal with resources.
Right.
Always, like, I mean, I'm not a big fan personally, I must say, of this whole artificial intelligence. When it comes to everything must be turned robotic, I think with so many people, why can't we sort of, create more jobs for people, that kind of stuff? And
yeah, there is an element of that is very real, and that I understand. I just think that we can't see it through the clouds right now. The benefits. I think that, believe me, I musicians are right at the top of the heap. That of people that are going to suffer from AI. Artists,
Honest.
painters.
Yeah.
That's a real thing that is. But I think at the end of the day, having the ability to be an organic musician, artist, creator of content will always win out over AI. I think that there might be a 5-year period where people are just like, I don't know. It's hard to see because again, we you know look at, I could never have imagined uh, 30 years ago to be able to have this conversation with you on a computer. Like, to me, it was like the Jetsons. Like
Yeah.
when you watch the Jetsons, we were like, what the hell? They're talking to each other on a television. It just seems so far out of reach. And now here we are, just casually. You're on the other side of the earth, and we're having this brilliant conversation that we would never have unless I came to you and played in your town. And
Yeah.
so on that level, I really, and the telephones, everything is done on literally everyone's walking around with a computer in their pocket. And, GPS, the idea of asking people for directions, looking at a map, so a lot of things that some people will say, well, those are great qualities, being able to look at a map and find your way around. That's the right way of doing it. Oh, okay. But I can dial into my GPS and it'll tell me exactly how to get there, and it'll never fail me. So I like that. Coming from a guy who's not good with directions, so that's just a small branch on the tree of everything that's really going on. But so it'll be interesting to see how AI plays out. I think that, but I think that the idea of trying to stifle it and stop it is too late.
No,
it's too late.
Over.
You're not going to be able to stop it now.
I mean, there's going to be far too much corporate interest. Like you said, I think record labels already lavishing in the idea of, well, I'm not going to have to deal with some crazy musician. I can just sort of program.
Generate it.
If I want Kylie Minogue to sing that song again, well, here we go. Bang.
Now, what needs to happen is and I hope that the thing that worries me is that if AI is going to do that, there needs to be some compensation for those sounds that they're using. There needs to be new laws in place, or new safeguards put in place for artists. Like, you can't just use my voice and just like you can't use somebody's photograph. You shouldn't be able to do that. There needs to be some safeguards put in place. So I hope that we get ahead of that a little bit. And
exactly, it's just like I decide I want Kelly Shaefer's voice on my song. Blah, 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 blah. I need to pay royalties.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of thing. But it's another interesting. There's a German philosopher here that I read a book on, and they were discussing in a podcast AI. And he said, okay, now one of the betterments that this would bring is probably that us humans, don't know if it's going to turn out that way, but maybe we end up working less, and machines do the work. But he raised an interesting point. He said, like, well, now we live in a system where a country runs on taxes. Now, how does that get solved? If you, Kelly, have a big company and you're running everything on machines, maybe those machines need to get taxed.
Yeah.
That kind of, how does business work? I mean, it has to somehow,
It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I don't know how much of it I'll get to see at 55, but hopefully I get another 20 years to see how it unfolds. But because certainly when I look 20 years ago from now, things have changed so much, in the last 20 years. So I can't imagine 20 years from now where we'll be. But it's an interesting time to be alive for sure. It's there's a lot of shit going on, and a lot of things to write about in terms of music and music is always a reflection, and art in general is like a reflection of what's going on in the world.
Music and movies, they sort of reflect.
Yeah, and movies, absolutely. Yeah. So we'll see, I guess. But.
We will. Kelly, it's been so great chatting. I'm looking forward to listening to Until the Dirt.
Yeah,
we'll check it out, most definitely.
Please, I'll send a link over to you. So send a couple songs so you can get a little preview on it. But for anybody out there watching, August 25th comes out on Nuclear Blast. It's called Till the Dirt, not Until the Dirt. I'm busting your balls because we've been arguing about the spelling of my name. The people watching will know. We've been arguing about the spelling of my name for the last few days. because nobody ever spells it correctly ever.
Okay, my bad.
No, it's funny because when people go to search for me, I actually did a search of one time of the misspelled version of my name and found all kinds of content that I never ever got to see because I don't search that. And so anyway, but yeah, till the dirt, and
Yeah,
that
everybody
comes out
check
August
it out.
25th.
Nuclear Blast, August 25th, you said?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and the first single's out now on YouTube. You can check out Outside the Spiral, and then watch for new Atheist stuff to come in 2024. I believe that's the year we're going to be able to get it done, and we're excited about it. Believe me, nobody wants to make more Atheist music than me, and I got a great band. I got a really phenomenal band. You know, they're incredible musicians, and it's going to be we're really going to knock it out of the park. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and there's really nothing I have to prove anymore with Atheist. You know, so it's going to be very liberating to write a new Atheist record and just have it go in a bunch of different directions, just confuse the shit out of people for 10 more years.
Yeah, yes, exactly. You mentioned tour, so that you are planning something for Europe.
So oh yeah, absolutely. I believe our management's working on it right now, and I don't know if it'll happen before the end of the year. I hope it does. But next year we're definitely looking at doing festivals and all that. It's funny because a lot of people are like, "Well, you need a new album." I'm like, "Well, do we?" I don't know that we do. You know, I mean, just to be able to play festivals. We haven't played this music for people in a long time, so I don't know that it's necessary for us to have a new album to be able to play the festival circuit.
I don't think that's a fait accompli. I think you can come without that. But I would love to. I will keep my eyes peeled, and
cool.
As soon as there's something, I will also post it. And I'm gonna.
I look forward to meeting you someday now. So where are you living at?
I'm living about an hour from Hanover.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll definitely get over there.
Fairly northern.
Yeah. But so when that time happens, be sure and write me a letter so I can put you on the list, and
I'll see you somewhere.
We can have a chat in person. It's an honor to be on your podcast. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Kelly, for making the time.
A pleasure. Well, I hope to see you.
I will post your links for Till the Dirt underneath the video when I post it as well.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And thanks to everybody that's given me support over the years. And the best is yet to come. You know, I'm far from done. A lot of good stuff on the horizon. So be watching out for it. And thank you for everything. I really appreciate it.
Support metal.
Cheers, man.
Kelly, go well. Have a good weekend.
You as well.
Cheers.
See you, buddy.